welcome to Encouragement for the Week with Jan. Last week, I shared about God's goodness in the midst of my husband Craig's medical crisis, how God was involved in every minute detail from the way a pituitary tumor was discovered, the surgery to remove it, Craig's swift recovery process, and some of the surrounding events. I have certainly witnessed what David was talking about in Psalm 37, verse 23, when he said, "The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives." I can also identify with him when he exclaimed in Psalm 40, verse 5, "O Lord my God, you have performed many wonders for us. Your plans for us are too numerous to list. You have no equal. If I tried to recite all your wonderful deeds, I would never come to the end of them." That is exactly how I feel. There is so much to share. I couldn't fit it all in last week, so you get to hear more about God's goodness in the midst of our recent adversity in part 2. As I noted last week, Craig was instructed not to fly for 6 weeks after the surgery. He had a follow-up appointment with a neurosurgeon a week and a half after the procedure, and the surgeon gave him clearance to leave Fort Lauderdale. Just what he was excitedly waiting to hear. Oh, happy day! We had already been away from home for 2.5 weeks with a very sparse supply of clothing, and I was running low on some of my medications, so we were more than eager to get home. But wait a minute. We had to sail home, and options were very limited. Craig had actually been checking around trying to find some information out on what boats were going to Nassau from Fort Lauderdale or Miami from the day after his surgery. There were a couple of ferries sailing to Grand Bahama, one of the islands in the Bahamas, but there were no passenger boats sailing from Grand Bahama to the Nassau port in New Providence where we live. Craig was upset that getting home was proving to be such a challenge. But hey, I knew that God had a good plan, and the delay in being able to leave when we wanted to was for a good purpose. I believe the delay was to make sure Craig got the rest that he needed to heal properly. If he was home, he more than likely would have been more active than he should. I was able to get much needed good rest too. God was just looking out for our well-being. Craig came to accept that and settled his spirit. We then started looking at cruises, and the only option available was by a Carnival cruise, which was leaving out of Miami, but not until August 7th, arriving in Nassau on August the 10th. Yikes! It was only July the 19th. That was another 2.5 weeks away, and on top of that, we were going to have to be on that ship for 3 days. We just wanted to go straight home, but that wasn't possible. The only other option was to wait and fly out in September, and we definitely didn't want to wait that long, so the cruise it was. The cost of the cruise was more than the price of airplane tickets home, so where was this money going to come from? Well, let me show you how God was working and looking out for us, and we didn't even realize it at the time. Craig is a real estate agent, and his commission is not always received when he expects it. Some funds he had been waiting for a few months finally hit his account on the Friday of the week that he got ill, the day before finding out about the tumor. Our omniscient God knew what was about to happen and allowed disbursement of those funds to be held up. He saw the bigger picture. It was those same long-awaited funds that paid for our cruise home. Yes, Craig was upset about the long delay, but our wise, all-knowing God is in control, and His timing is always right. God once again was working everything for our good, and just as Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. I thank the Lord for that delay. Prior to all of these emergency happenings with Craig, I was scheduled to have glaucoma laser surgery in both of my eyes to help keep the pressure in them regulated. The procedure on one eye was to be on July 27th and on the other August the 3rd. But with Craig's unexpected crisis and not knowing what our situation would be after his surgery, I rescheduled my surgery dates to September. Our Father God was working out the particulars in this situation for our good too. The glaucoma specialist's office is in Western Florida, only a half-hour drive away from where we were staying. I needed to have the pressure in my eyes checked because I had missed my appointment at home in Nassau, and as mentioned before, I had rescheduled the laser procedures. Since we now had a firm date for our departure, I made an appointment for the pressure check. That appointment was set for Monday of the week I was originally scheduled to have the glaucoma laser surgery on the first eye. Craig suggested that I inquire if there was a possibility of my still having the procedures done, seeing that we were going to be in Fort Lauderdale for another couple of weeks. I did just that. When I arrived at the doctor's office that Monday morning, I asked the receptionist what my chances were, and she told me that the doctor could do the procedure during my visit that very same morning if I wanted. My response was, "Let's do this." So my right eye was done, and the procedure was done on my left eye the following week. Ain't God wonderful? And guess what? The procedures on both eyes were completed within the originally scheduled time frame. Only God could have orchestrated that. God worked it all out and spared us having to return to Fort Lauderdale and having to encounter travel expenses, airfare, hotel, and car rental for 2 weeks, and of course food. God is so good. I know without a shadow of a doubt that He loves and cares for us. His plans for us are all good, and He perfects that which concerns us. He always causes everything to work together for the good of those who love Him. Praise His name. Now that my eyes were done, Craig and I continued to relax and rest while counting down the few days left for us to start our journey home. I smile as I think about the fact that God planned a mini vacation trip for us before we returned home, back to the real world. We continued to rest and relax and enjoy the refreshing ocean air while on board the ship, because we knew that the Lord was taking care of us. We're now safely back home, still marveling at how God caused everything to work together for our good while we were in the midst of that crisis. He did it for us, and He will do it for you. Trust Him. He is faithful and fulfills all of His promises. Like David, I give thanks to the Lord, for He is good, for His steadfast love endures forever. If this testimony has blessed you in any way, share the blessing. And I invite you to stay tuned for part 3 next week, when I summarize the life lessons learned on this journey. Also, if you haven't done it already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you will find this and previous messages of encouragement. Thank you, and God bless you.